everybody. We're back at IMATS Live in New York City, and we're joined today with our keynote speaker. That's right, we have the keynote speaker of IMATS New York for you, Mr. Neill Gorton. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So Neill, you've had a really wide, vast, amazing career, done so many beautiful things, so many wonderful movies that people know and love out there. Some of them were with Saving Private Ryan, Gladiator.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. Wolfman.
Yeah, I did work on that.
What were some other fun films that you really enjoyed working on?
Children of Men, which was kind of a fun movie.
Yeah.
And movies, I tell you, I always draw a blank, don't you, when you're trying to think, what have you been working on? I did one last year. I did Frankenstein, which isn't out yet. It's out in October with James McAvoy and Daniel Radcliffe, and got to create the Frankenstein's monster, which is always a kind of, every prosthetic artist's dream. So
absolutely. Did you do a different take on it? What was your take? Or can you tell us?
Can't say anything.
You can't say anything.
Look at that. I've come up with the one film we can't actually talk about, but anyway.
I actually did a Frankenstein in my career once too. Dean Koontz's Frankenstein. So yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Long time ago.
Yeah. Dean Koontz, who wrote the books?
Yeah.
The novels.
It was his take on the Frankenstein.
Gotcha.
It didn't go anywhere. It didn't do well. So.
But it's always fun to do, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so you have Millennium Effects as your effects house.
Yeah, I mean that's the company, and that's myself, and I've got several partners in the company these days. Rob Mayer, who's partner in the business, and there's Kate Walsh and Karen Spence, who kind of oversee the projects. They're the project producers, and Martina Hawkins, who is our admin sort of guru. So that whole thing, I mean, I'm still there and involved, but less so these days. Those guys run it all, and I kind of come in and I just get to do choice bits.
Right.
It's that privilege of kind of been doing it long enough now. I can go, I'll just do that bit.
Good for you. Are you on sets mostly?
You know what? I'm not big on set. I go on odd jobs that I like to go on. I've got some actors I like to work with, but nowadays, I've got a young family. I've got a little daughter, and it's really not great kind of doing all those hours. But I'm lucky. I can choose to go. Look, I'll go and just do particular ones. I'd hate to be that kind of tied into a movie for months. Away from home.
Especially the types of movies we're talking about here, where they're very long, lengthy. They're not a 2-month film. They go on.
No, this is it. I mean,
months.
I think the last kind of full film I did a thing called Chernobyl Diaries a couple of years back. It's shooting in Serbia for 5 weeks, and it was fun, but you just kind of go, no, I kind of, the living out the suitcase thing just...
It gets old after a while.
Been doing it for a long time.
It sounds so glamorous, and everybody wants to live vicariously through you, traveling all over, but it gets old lugging around stuff all over. I know what you mean. But, it could be worse.
Yep.
It's a high-class problem. Now, did you shoot a lot in the U.S., or mainly, you're based in London, based in the U.K.?
Yeah, I've just done little bits and pieces in the U.S., but mostly the UK, around Europe. The thing is, there's so many great people out there now doing prosthetics. When I started, if you wanted to do prosthetics, you had to either go to Los Angeles or go to London. And wherever you were doing your film, you had to pull the crew from there. But now, there's so many great effects houses all over the world. Down in Australia, you've got people like Odd Studio who are amazing, and did some great demos at the last IMATS. And just wherever you go, there's fabulous people these days doing fabulous work. Scandinavia, Spain. You've got DDT in Spain, Oscar-winning makeup artist. So if someone makes a movie in Spain, they've got Oscar-winning team there. So you do find yourself more confined to London, but English-based productions, and then just going off and doing things around Europe.
But really, I know we've been talking about this a lot, that England is putting out so many great films right now. It seems like all the cool things are shooting there.
It is. We're crazy busy. Touch wood. It's just, we've got the studios, we've got the infrastructure, we've got great crews, and there is just so many productions happening. But, and as well as features, it's television, huge amount of television. We're just doing... I've been involved with like Doctor Who for 10 years and those kind of shows, but also, there's a lot of shows. We've just done shows for Fox and AMC and just all that kind of thing coming into the UK. You know, I personally I like TV a lot more these days. You know, because it tends to be done closer to home. You know, so you don't mind a TV show. You know, movie.
Well, the Brits were ruling the Academy Awards this year. I mean, both Guardians of the Galaxy and oh gosh, Grand Budapest Hotel. Both shot in,
fantastic. I mean, you know, and I was delighted to see Mark Coulier is an old friend of mine, and we kind of started in the industry together and go back a long way. So it was a delight
to see each other, to be honest.
Well, I mean, literally, I think we were. We both, the first film I worked on was the same film. First film he worked on. We worked for a company called Image Animation, a guy called Bob Keane, way back in the day. Bob did like the Hellraiser movies, Pinhead and all that kind of thing. So Mark and I both started with Bob. Mark's a little older than me, a lot older. So I was 17, and I think Mark was about 21, 22, on a movie called Waxwork, which was with Zach Galligan and it's. So yeah, that was for both of us. That was the first film we worked on, and yeah, we've been pals since then. Worked on a lot of films together back then. And it's a small industry in England. We all know each other. You know.
And generally, it is a small industry. We kind of tend to meet each other all the time.
Well, that's what's lovely, and that's what's lovely about these shows as well. You know, it's just so nice to kind of connect with everyone, and people. You know, for me as well. You know, I think back, and it's like before these shows. There was people we'd have never met. You know, there's people in LA now who are buddies. I'd have never met because you just you had no reason to be. You're not on the same jobs. You're all, you know. And it's like I'm doing a demonstration tomorrow, a makeup with Josh Turi, who, you know, we met at the show in LA, and then kept in touch, and then ended up doing some jobs together. And then when this came up, it's like, oh, let's do a thing. You know, I'll build some of it in the UK, you build some of it here.
Oh, nice.
You know, and that's all happening because of these shows.
Yeah. Josh Turi is our curator for the museum, who you saw yesterday. Super nice guy. Worked on SNL forever and ever, and still does, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, how did you get into the business? Were you self-taught? Did you go to school?
Yeah, I was self-taught. I mean, I started in 1987. Which is frightening. But I was 17, and I just made stuff at home. You know, I was making things from. I was a big fan of. Yeah, I mean, I actually started out as a fan of animation. I loved Ray Harryhausen, those kind of, you know, those Sinbad movies and things like that. And I used to make little figures, and then slowly but surely you kind of, you know, see the bigger world of effects. And I just found myself gravitating towards makeup and prosthetics. And I just made stuff at home, and you know, I was baking foam latex in my mum's kitchen and all those kind of stories. And yeah, I just went out there with a portfolio, wrote to people. Chris Tucker kind of gave me a lot of advice, and my first kind of little job, just assisting him. And then as I say, at 17, I met Bob Keane, and he said, "Come and work on this movie," and that was it. You know, I dropped out of school and started working.
And I mean, being that this was before internet, how did you find out information on how to make big foam latex? And I mean, how did you...
Well, this is the thing. I'm from Liverpool, so Liverpool is not even, you know, at least there was an industry in London. There was no filmmetry in Liverpool. You know, we had the Beatles, that's it. If you want to know about the Beatles, you could. But prosthetics, people are like, never even heard of the word, never mind be able to spell it. So yeah, I just would buy, I used to get like mail order magazines and books and, you know, just read everything I could and watch anything on TV and just absorb as much as you can, you know. There used to be an old magazine called Cine Magic, which was for people who made kind of home movies, you know, amateur filmmakers. It was Starlog magazine, which was like a genre magazine in the day, did this Cine Magic magazine. And it's interesting you look back now, because I keep seeing people in there. I look at these old issues, there's like Tom Woodruff is there as a teenager putting a little piece into that magazine. And there's various people who've gone on to industry but who were back in the early 80s, were basically in their bedrooms. But at the time you don't really, you know, it's now I look at an old issue and go, oh, so-and-so, my God, I forgot, you know.
I think that all the time, like here and, you know, some of the other Monster Palooza, stuff like that. It's like, I wonder who in the audience might be the next Dick Smith, you know? All these kids.
And again, you know, you meet people at these shows. I meet so many kids, chat to so many people, and you just think, you know, it's interesting. You get year after year then. I mean, I've done every London show, and, you know, I love it there. And I've seen people who have, you know, you see them when they came to their first show, they've got their portfolio and you give advice, and then it might be a couple of years later you see them again and their work's improved, and then a couple of years later you see them because you're working with them, you know, and it's actually nice to see that.
Yeah, it's a good progression. It's so great to have these trade shows like IMATS because it shares so much information, you know, you're able to share all your experiences with the younger generation and teach them.
Well, this is, you know, I've always had that people are kind of, the sharing thing, you know, I think it's so important to do. Our industry only gets better by people talking and sharing experience, and that whole kind of people, you know, going, oh no, I don't want to talk to anyone, I don't want to share these ideas. You know, if everyone did that, we'd just grind to a halt.
Yeah.
We'd never improve.
And everyone has a different way of coming to the same points. You know, there's 5 different ways to do everything,
and it's exciting. And again, these shows are just a great place where people bring these things, present them, you know, and there's so many things. Every time I go to a show, I come away going, oh, I just saw someone do something. It's like, there's a little trick. I'll have that.
So do you have any favorite characters that you've designed? I know you've done a ton of horror movies and crazy things.
The thing I really love is comedy characters. I do a lot with British kind of comedians. So there's people like Catherine Tate, who was in The Office here, I think, in the American version of The Office. And so Catherine does a series, and she does lots of character roles. And so I create a whole bunch of looks for her over the years. And there's a guy called Paul Whitehouse, who's, again, a great English comedian. And he's a great actor. I always find comedy actors are usually great you know, they're really good actors as well.
Oh, yeah.
And they're really brave, especially with makeup. You know, they're like, let's go for it, you know? Let's push it. I'll try these teeth and put this crazy thing on. So, as I say, Paul, he's done a whole bunch of shows, and I've worked with for about 10, 12 years, and it's lovely because I've got this one guy I've done about 50 characters on over the years, and some very subtle ones. He does a series of commercials as well, which plays lots of different characters. So I mean, I've got this 60 noses of this one guy, 60 different sculpts, different foreheads. And at the point now, I can just do mix and match. But that's kind of
like
fun.
Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah. But that's kind of nice. It's great to take one face and just see all the things you can do with it.
Yeah,
so it's a kind of mad experiment.
Where do you find your inspiration for all that, of all 50 different noses? And I mean, how does that come out of your brain?
But the thing is, it's all here around it. I remember arriving yesterday at the airport, and you kind of come out, and there's all the people holding the cards and all those faces, and you're just faces. Everyone's there. You want a great character, just look on the street.
Yeah, I guess so.
And usually there's something that you see people on the train or in the airport or wherever, and you look at it and you just go, if I sculpted that face, no one would believe it.
Yeah, I know. This is true. A lot of it in makeup. People wouldn't believe what real injuries actually look like.
Yeah, well, exactly. So.
What do you think? What can you tell us as far as now that we're shooting on high def with prosthetics? What are the changes from when we used to shoot on film to high def now?
Yeah.
What can you still do? What can't you do any longer?
I think the obvious thing is, it's very hard to work with foam with high def. I mean, if you're doing a fantasy thing, where you can color and it's more opaque, great. But trying to do character makeup with foam is so difficult with high def. It just, it shows that it's opaque. But now we've got great silicons. Silicon's got that reflectivity that's just, is like skin. But I get this often from people saying, how do you do with high def? And it's like, look, in the old days, you'd put someone in a chair and you get a lot of makeup artists who would kind of work looking around, looking in the mirror, So it's like the face is 8 foot away. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, it's like, just turn the chair around and look at them. There we go. That's high definition. There we go. Across the room, that's regular definition. Now it's high definition. Yeah. Look, whatever you can see there, it's going to be seen by the camera,
So that's the trick.
It's just being more meticulous.
Naked eye, right,
just get up and really study,
Do you have any favorite products in the FX world that you just always are in your staples in your kit?
At the moment, I like the European body art. Their palettes and their color. I've been playing with those a lot, and I've found they're really nice palettes. I don't know if you've seen those palettes. There's always that thing with an alcohol palette where you use up one color and then go, kind of that I've got to buy another palette to fill up the colour, or
Right,
you know, fill with the bottle. But they've got these little, all the colours are in these little metal squares, little cups, and the palette has got a magnetic tray. So if you run out of a colour, you just buy the individual colour, pop it in. It's like,
and it's an alcohol based.
yeah, and then, you know, what you can do is buy all the individual colours in just a couple of cases, and then, depending on your character, you can just take those away and build that character's palette.
That's fabulous.
And there you go. That's done.
Fabulous.
Rather than this whole kind of.
Always buy a new palette just for the one.
Or you've
color.
got like a stack of palettes to kind of use a bit of that color, a bit of that. It's like no, you take all these,
and
put them
you try to
together.
refill them, and they never.
Nah, never work. You know. But these are, and they're great. You know, it's just like, oh, you look at it and go, why didn't anyone think of that sooner?
Right?
It's so obvious.
Another funny little trick that I learned, maybe everybody does this, but I hadn't seen anyone do it before. I don't know if you know Margaret Prentice.
Yeah, I know the name. I mean, amazing painter.
Crazy painter.
Incredible
Crazy.
application. Yeah.
She doesn't ever carry around the liquid, like Illustrator alcohol colors. She just carries them the palette and dumps a bunch of alcohol in them until they're liquid, and that's how she carries her colors.
Yeah.
So she doesn't have to carry all the little bottles. I'm like, that's pretty damn ingenious.
Yeah.
But what, you know, a lot of people ask, one of the most common questions I get with prosthetics I've heard is, what do you do when people sweat? What are your secrets to fixing it when they're sweating their butts off?
I just don't let them sweat. I just threaten them. It's like, you sweat.
Have you been to New Orleans? Stu?
Yeah,
might not
No,
work.
that's going to be a bit different. See, we don't get that problem in England much. You know what I mean?
True.
It's more the rain.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, as you say, people ask that a lot, and I get that from producers as well, going, well, you know, it might be hard. How are you going to keep it on? It's like, look, you've just got to work with me. You know, I mean, you can't do anything about it. Sweat is the best makeup remover in the world.
Yeah, it
you
is.
know, I mean. It wouldn't be
They're
nice
like,
if you
"Here's your
bottled it,
piece."
but yeah, and it just. So, you just have to come up with every trick you can. Try and keep them cool. Try and work with a costume.
The tricks.
I mean, I've done a lot where we use cool suits a lot, and even under, you know, not big fat suits or preacher suits, just under regular costume, and if someone's got a lot of prosthetics on, and as long as the costume can accommodate it, we'll have a cool suit on there.
Smart.
Because if you can just bring that core body temperature down, and you know, and yeah, because as soon as people get hot, especially under silicone, it holds that heat, and it will just get worse, and it's so hard to cool it down. Silicone itself, you know, you get it hot, it stays hot. You get it cold, it stays cold. So you've got to fight it, and so you might be trying to cool someone down, but this is still hot.
It's still hot. You know? Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, the cool suit. So we've got a bunch of them, and wherever we can, slip them onto actors, and you know, keep them cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of little tricks and secrets. I know people build sweat channels or lots of antiperspirant products, but the bottom line is sometimes you get to a point where you're just like, I'm sorry,
you can't win. You just throw up your hands.
We're done for the day. I apologize. I think we're the only people on set besides the actors that might sometimes have to say, unfortunately, I'm sorry, we're done for the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, speaking of being done for the day, we had to let you go because I know you've got more to do with IMATS. But thank you so much.
It was my pleasure. It was really nice to speak to you.
Such an honor to meet you, Neill. Thank you so much.
I hope the rest of the weekend goes well.
I hope so too. This is Mr. Neill Gorton, our keynote speaker for IMATS New York, IMATS Live. We just brought that to you so you didn't have to travel all the way here. Keep tuning in. We'll be here until 7 o'clock today. Thanks.